Hey all, Tony Bing here. Hello and welcome to my Gambit full house build for Marvel Heroes Omega for both PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Now this is a range build as you can see on screen at the moment, and it makes use of all his throwing cards and his awesome kinetic energy mechanic as well. So in this video what we will do is we'll showcase his skills and talents. We'll then have a look at the optimal synergies you can use. Next up we have a look at the infinity point allocation, and we'll look at the first 100 points where you want to place them. We then look at general gearing priority for this build, and then we finish up with a run through of an operation and a full bounty clear, so we can show off how the build is at clearing both trash and bosses as well. Now if you want to jump to any particular section, check out the description below and there are timestamps there, but if you're watching it in order, we'll have a look at the skills first. For the skills here we actually use a mix of both ranged and melee skills, because some of the melee skills are great and they actually have pretty good range on them as well despite being tagged melee. Now the common theme that ties everything together and makes it easier for us to gear is the fact that every skill we use has the energy damage tag on it. Now the first skill we look at anyway is our main ranged filler. This is Dead Man's Hand, and of course it has the energy tag as you can see, and if you have kinetic energy you'll be thrown out additional cards for more damage there. We then have our first cooldown skill, which is House of Cards. Now I have this as one of the first ones I select because it applies slow, a dot, and on top of that it's got a low 4-second cooldown, so we can actually use this as part of a rotation, but I like to fire it off as well at trash as I'm running past them to take them out. We then have Street Sweep, which is a nice skill. It's tagged as melee, but if you have kinetic energy you'll leave a long trail of damaging dot, and that lasts for 8 seconds, and the skill has a low 4-second cooldown, so that works well with the previous skill we looked at. We then move along to our kinetic mastery tree again, and we have Royal Flush. So this will do a nice amount of initial damage, but it also boosts our range power damage as well for 8 seconds, and the skill has an 8-second cooldown. All the way over to the other side again now, and we have Batter Up this time, so it does a huge amount of damage for the 8-second cooldown, and if you have kinetic energy it will do additional damage and also stun the enemy for 2 seconds. It's got a great range as well, so don't worry about the fact that it is a melee skill, the range on it's really nice. Now the final cooldown skill we'll look at, and this will be buffed by Royal Flush, is Trick Card. So through talents we've got this set up so we can throw 3 charges, it has an 8-second cooldown, and it actually has a 100% critical hit chance as well. So it's great to save up for a boss and fire off the 3 charges one after the other, and the boss should also be stunned from the Batter Up we've used previously as well. Now final skill before we check out the talents is your signature, and of course you'll take this. You throw out 52 cards that explode as they're hitting enemies as well, and you gain 80% damage resistance. Now you can still get one-shotted by a Rhino's charge and so on, so do be wary before using this particular skill. But with the actual skills covered, let's now have a look at the talents. Talent wise then, we are really focusing on buffing our range skills that we have. Now for the first talent, this is universal to all skills if you have your kinetic energy up, and this is Raging Cajun. So you trigger a kinetic surge effect when you hit with any power, and as you can see it costs kinetic energy, so you must have that available. We then have Sleight of Hand. So with this one here, it's a passive effect of 300 dodge rating, 25% dodge rating multiplier, and credit find, and also when you dodge an attack you do damage. It's not fantastic, but this entire talent line is a bit underwhelming. However, 25% dodge rating brings our dodge rating up to or at least our dodge rating multiplier up to the region of about 50%. So if you can get any dodge, you're getting a nice bonus on that, so bear that in mind. We then have Jax or Better. So with this one, Dead Man's Hand or Wild Card throw a special explosive card every 5th card, and we are using that as our main filler, so we'll get the bonus from that. We then have Free of a Kind. So Trick Card gains the 3 charges and also a bonus 25% damage, which is great when we consider the fact it also has a 100% chance to crit as well. And final talent we look at is Ace of Hearts. So 52 pickup, which is your signature, will also periodically throw a fully charged Ace of Spades at a nearby enemy. So all very simple there. Let's now have a look at the synergies. As always here we start off with the two synergies that actually work for your primary attribute, which is energy and fighting, so they're covered by Gambit and War Machine. You then have your more general synergies which I like to use, and they are Blade, Hawkeye, Hulk, She-Hulk and also Squirrel Girl. For specific synergies for Gambit, these are ones that boost our energy or range damage. They include Captain Marvel, Cyclops and also Iron Man. So pretty simple setup there. But next up, let's have a look at the Infinity Allocation and we'll check out the first 100 points where we would place those. So with Gambit, the key is really to keep your kinetic energy up as much as possible because your skills will be doing a lot more damage. So for that reason we're using my old trusty Mind Gem and then Deep Thought. So 100 Infinity points will give you 250 kinetic energy, and of course you actually want to just keep piling points into this until you've maxed it out. It would be 500 kinetic energy it would offer, and that would cost you 200 points. After that I would potentially start looking into attack speed to get your main spender speed up. Now I'll just quickly mention before we move on to the geared and priority section that another great thing about putting 100 points into Deep Thought is the fact that you get the increased, or even it should be decreased, cost reduction of 10% on your skills, again allowing you to keep your kinetic skills up for longer. But as mentioned, let's now have a look at the geared and priority section. So if you've watched a few of the guide videos now, you'll know for this section I won't spell out the exact gear you want to use, but what I'll do is point you in the general direction, and the reason for that is through time gear can change, so I don't want to have a list of exact specific best in slot gear which is actually out of date. Now we always start off with a legendary because we build round this. Now the legendary that's perfect for them is the Cosmic Control Rod. It offers 1200 energy damage rating, offers 1500 critical hit rating to energy powers, and all of our powers have the energy tag, 2000 health, which certainly helps with the fact they can be a bit squishy, 200 kinetic energy, which is brilliant on them, and then you have the nice rank 5 proc that can provide you with additional damage to energy powers as well. Now there's actually a lot of other sections I've filled in here that I normally wouldn't, because Gambit's quite a unique character in that what we want to do when we're gearing for him is you really want to go relatively heavy on your resource, which is kinetic energy, but probably more important is you want to try and get some kind of sustain and find a way of getting kinetic energy back. Now if we look at the medallion first anyway, the medallion you would most likely want to use would probably be Mandarin, because it is ranged and we are primarily ranged. But the reason I'm showing this particular medallion is it has kinetic energy, and that would be the additional effects you'd be looking for on your medallion of choice. It wouldn't of course be Black Cat. Now we bring up the Catalyst, and I only have one of the actual affixes you would be wanting to look for here, and that is the generate 25% of your health and 100 kinetic energy when you use your medkit. For that reason as well, try and get medkit reduction on one of your pieces of cosmic gear or ring so you can regain the 100 kinetic energy more often. Another affix which is great is the ability to generate 5, I was about to say spirit, but it wouldn't be spirit, 5 kinetic energy on hit. That's pretty important as well to find. We then have the relic, and with this it's the relic of Gibram, again to increase your kinetic energy pool. Now when we look at the artifacts, some of these are harder to find, some of them are easier, but they're artifacts that I believe for a good while should certainly be pretty effective on them. This one I think will be best in slot for a long while. Now this is found from Shocker, and it's the reserve electrical generator, so it has kinetic energy. It actually has a proc where when you critically hit you gain free kinetic energy that stacks 3 times, so that's 9 kinetic energy per critical hit, and also when you reach 3 stacks you gain critical damage rating, and on top of that you've got the +2 to energy. You also have kinetic energy cost reduction, and then finally you've got the awesome when you drop below 25% max kinetic energy you gain a huge 30 kinetic energy recovery for 16 seconds. It does have a 30-second cooldown, so you're looking at just over 50% uptime on that there once you drop down. Now, the next two artefacts are just general, easy to find artefacts in the game, but they're actually great, and that's the reason I'm showing them off. In time, no doubt you will replace these, but early game, these are nice ones to find. Now, the Advanced Crystal of Cadphus, the reason this is great is it does have critical damage rating, it's got brutal damage rating, it's got energy damage rating, but more importantly, it has a chance to gain 25 kinetic energy when you hit with an energy power. And if we bring up the maximum, we can see that goes all the way up to a 25% chance to gain 25 kinetic energy, and that's huge and can make a massive difference in keeping your kinetic energy up. Now, the final artefact we'll look at before we show off some gameplay is a cybernetic implant. It's nice and easy to find, it offers up to 300 kinetic energy, and when you drop below 15% max kinetic energy, which will happen, you don't want it to happen too often because the goal is to keep it up, but when it does happen, you'll gain 1500 damage rating to energy powers and 100 crit, and that buff lasts for 10 seconds there. So again, that's a really useful artefact, and it's nice and easy to find as well. What we'll do now though to finish off the video is we'll showcase some gameplay. So we will run through the Kingpin's warehouse operation, we'll do a full bounty clear, that's clearing 100 enemies so you can see how he is against trash, and then we'll take down Dr. Octopus at the end to show off his boss killing skills as well. But I hope this video was useful as always. If there's any questions or anything, feel free to ask below, and I hope you enjoy this gameplay.
No can do, mon ami. Who are you guys? There if you don't want it blown up. On me. You can't prove I did that.